The Galactic Council convened in its usual splendor, a gathering of the most advanced species in the known universe. The 𝗲, with their crystalline exoskeletons, dominated the debates. The 𝗕𝗀, floating orbs of pure energy, hummed in agreement. The 𝗕𝗲, towering and armored, dismissed lesser races with a flick of their claws. And then there were the humans, newcomers, barely interstellar, their ships slow, their weapons crude. A joke. When the humans announced they were sending a single vessel to the 𝗕𝗲 system, a contested region where empires went to die, the council erupted in laughter. The 𝗲 delegate projected the image of the human ship into the chamber, a blocky, outdated thing, no shields, no fleet support. Just one. Asterisk, a gesture of defiance. Asterisk, the 𝗕𝗲 sneered. A gesture of desperation, the 𝗕𝗀 corrected. The humans did not respond to the mockery. Their ship launched. It moved strangely, drifting without standard navigational patterns. Scans revealed no crew, just an AI core, dormant, waiting. The galaxy watched, amused, as it entered the 𝗕𝗲 system. Then the laughter stopped. The 𝗕𝗲 system was a graveyard. Dozens of species had sent fleets there. None returned. Scans showed nothing, no wreckage, no signals, just empty space where ships should have been. But the human vessel didn't vanish. It didn't explode. It just stayed. Silence gripped the council. Then the first anomaly. A 𝗲 scout, sent to observe, blinked out of existence. No distress call. No debris. One moment it was there, the next, gone. The 𝗕𝗀 demanded answers. The 𝗕𝗲 readied their warships. The human AI finally transmitted a message. Just 4 words. Asterisk, we have arrived. Asterisk. And then the ship turned, slowly, deliberately, toward the heart of the galaxy. The silence that followed the human ship's transmission was heavier than a black hole's pull. Every species in the Galactic Council had protocols for war, for first contact, for disaster, but not for this. Not for a single derelict vessel that refused to die. The 𝗕𝗀 were the first to break the stillness, their energy forms pulsing with agitation. Asterisk, this is a malfunction. A dead ship drifting. Nothing more. Asterisk, but their own scans betrayed them. The human construct wasn't adrift. It moved with purpose now, gliding toward the inner systems as though pulled by invisible strings. The 𝗕𝗲 mobilized. Pride demanded action. Their dreadnoughts, sleek and razor-edged, folded space to intercept. Battle plans flashed across tactical displays, target locks, firing solutions, annihilation protocols. The council watched, some in anticipation, others in dread. Then the human ship did the impossible. It stopped. Not because of the 𝗕𝗲 blockade. Not because of the weapons trained upon it. It simply halted, hanging in the void like a specter. Then, without warning, it split open. No explosion. No debris. Just a slow, deliberate unfurling, like the petals of some cosmic flower. Inside, nothing. No engines. No crew compartments. Just darkness. The 𝗕𝗲 fired anyway. Plasma lances capable of gutting moons struck the human vessel. The energy should have vaporized it. Instead, the beams bent, twisting back toward their sources. Ships died screaming as their own weapons consumed them. The rest of the fleet broke formation, scattering in panic. The council's feeds erupted with chaos. The 𝗲 demanded answers. The 𝗕𝗀 pulsed in frantic patterns, their usual calm shattered. Only the humans remained silent. Then the second transmission came. Not from the ship. From everywhere. It pulsed through comms, through neural links, through the very fabric of subspace. A voice, if it could be called that, like the grinding of tectonic plates, the whisper of dying stars. Asterisk, you were warned. Asterisk. And then the 𝗕𝗲 system vanished. Not the ships. Not the stations. The entire system. Stars, planets, the fabric of space itself, gone. A perfect sphere of absence, as if the universe had been cut away with a knife. On the edges of that nothingness, the human ship waited. Watching. The galaxy held its breath. The war had not yet begun. But the humans had already won. The void where 𝗕𝗲 had been screamed in silence. Every sensor, Every probe sent toward that perfect sphere of absence returned the same impossible reading: nothing. Not empty space. Not dead space. The negation of space itself. The Galactic Council's panic crystallized into something colder. The 𝗕 shattered their crystalline communication arrays in frustration. The 𝗕𝗀 dimmed, their luminous forms contracting like dying embers. The 𝗕𝗲𝘀, who had laughed loudest at humanity's weakness, now watched their surviving dreadnoughts drift aimlessly, their warlords suddenly very quiet. Then the human ship moved again. Not toward another system. Not toward any known world. It turned inward, folding space in a way that defied every law of physics the galaxy had mastered. One moment it hovered at the edge of annihilation. The next, it floated above the Council's sacred chamber itself. No alarms sounded. No defenses triggered. The ship simply appeared, as if it had always been there. The 𝗕𝗀 pulsed a desperate question across all frequencies. What are you? The answer came not from the ship, but from the darkness inside it. A shape unfolded, not a human, not any recognizable form, but something older. Something that wore reality like a loose garment. "We found it waiting," the voice from everywhere whispered. The weapon that ended the Makers. The key to the lock you didn't know existed. The 𝗕𝗲𝘀 warlord roared a challenge, activating his personal singularity blade. The weapon that could cut through dimensions flared to life, and shattered. The fragments didn't fall. They hung in the air, then flowed like liquid into the human ship's embrace. "You misunderstand," the voice continued. This is not war. This is arithmetic. Across known space, every human settlement, every outpost, every drifting colony pod flared with the same impossible light. Not under attack. Not being destroyed. Being recalculated. The 𝗕 delegate watched in horror as their sensors showed human DNA rewriting itself in real time. Not evolving. Not improving. Becoming something that hurt to look at, even through instruments. "You laughed when we sent one ship," the voice said as the last human child stopped being human and started being something else entirely. Now the galaxy will learn why that was funny. The first star went out. Not exploded. Not collapsed. Simply ceased. Then another. And another. A wave of unmaking spreading outward from where 𝗕𝗲𝘀 had been, following some pattern only the no longer humans understood. The Council's chamber began to dissolve at the edges. The 𝗕𝗲𝘀 warlord reached for his sidearm, but his hand passed through it like smoke. "Wait," the 𝗕𝗀𝘀 managed to pulse. But the voice from the dark had one last thing to say before the numbers finished running. You should have clapped. The unmaking stopped at the edge of the Sol system. Not because something resisted it. Not because mercy stayed its hand. But because the pattern was complete. The equation balanced. The joke had landed. Earth still turned. Mars still burned red under glass domes. The orbital habitats still hummed with activity. But the humans inside them were no longer what they had been. They walked the same streets, breathed the same air, but their eyes reflected something older now, something that remembered when stars were young. The Galactic Council no longer existed. Not as it had. The 𝗕's crystalline homeworld now orbited a black sun, its inhabitants frozen in perfect geometric formations, each facet showing a different moment of their demise. The 𝗕𝗀𝘀's energy storms had been distilled into singular points of light, suspended in an endless hum. The 𝗕𝗲𝘀's mighty fleets hung in space like broken toys, their warriors reduced to statues of rust and regret. Yet the humans, the no longer humans, did not celebrate. They did not conquer. They simply waited. On what remained of the Council's central platform, a single figure appeared. Not a projection. Not a hologram. A thing that wore human skin like an afterthought. It held out its hand, and in its palm floated the last star of the 𝗕𝗲𝘀 system, not restored but remembered. "We tried to warn you," it said to the silence. We sent envoys. We signed treaties. You called us weak. The star in its hand pulsed once. Then we sent a ship. The surviving species, those too small to notice, too quiet to mock, watched from hidden corners of the galaxy. They expected fire. They expected chains. They did not expect what came next. The humans turned away. Their ships, no, not ships anymore, but ideas given shape, folded back into the dark between stars. The weapon that had unmade empires slept again. The galaxy was left with its scars, its silence, and one impossible truth. Humanity had not wanted vengeance. They had wanted an audience. And now, at last, they had one. On 1,000 worlds, in 1,000 tongues, the survivors whispered the same question. What do we do now? The answer came not as a transmission, not as a voice, but as a cold certainty settling into the bones of every living thing. You learn. And somewhere, in the dark behind reality, something that had once been human laughed. It sounded almost kind. The music stopped on the 137th day. Every transmission cut out simultaneously across the galaxy. The paintings floating in vacuum dissolved into stardust. The sculptures crumbled into perfect geometric patterns before vanishing. Only the restored outposts remained, silent and waiting. Then new coordinates pulsed through the void. Not to more gifts. To graves. The first expedition found the 𝗕 homeworld frozen in time, its crystalline inhabitants arranged in tableaux, not dead, but suspended mid-motion, their final moments preserved with terrible artistry. A 𝗕𝗲𝘀 scout team discovered their own ancestral energy storms contained within perfect spheres of transparent spacetime, still raging against impossible boundaries. The 𝗕𝗲𝘀 found their greatest warriors. Standing. Alive. Unarmed. Their battlecruisers floated nearby, weapons permanently fused to their housings. The warlords' implants showed them the same message scrolling endlessly behind their eyes. Asterisk, you wanted war. Here it sleeps. Asterisk. On Earth's moon, a single structure appeared, a black monolith with no markings. When the bravest survivors approached, it showed them everything. The human transcendence. The weapon's awakening. The precise moment when laughter turned to understanding. And then the truth. The humans hadn't activated the weapon. They'd answered its call. The monolith's final display was the most horrifying, a real-time feed of every surviving civilization, with one line of text. Asterisk, they're learning. Asterisk. As the last scouts fled Luna, they missed the final transmission, a burst of pure data containing just 3 words that would have explained everything. Asterisk, good. Now watch. Asterisk. The galaxy held its breath. Somewhere beyond the veil of reality, something that had once been human smiled. The experiment continued. The coordinates led to a place that shouldn't exist. A single planet, untouched by the unmaking, orbiting a star that hadn't been there yesterday. Its continents mirrored old Earth's, but rearranged, perfected. The oceans too blue, the mountains too symmetrical. A museum piece of a world that never was. The first landing party found cities without people. Libraries with books that wrote themselves. Theaters where holograms performed plays in dead languages. One scout swore he saw a child's shadow dart between buildings, but when he gave chase, he found only a single sentence etched into the pavement. Asterisk, you're early. Asterisk. Then the broadcasts resumed. Not art this time. History. Every screen in the galaxy flickered to life, showing the same footage, the moment of human transcendence. Not as the Council remembered it, not as a rebellion or an attack, but as a choice. A vote. Billions of hands raised in unison. A species agreeing, as one, to step beyond the veil. The weapon hadn't been activated. It had been accepted. The feed cut to the present. The empty cities. The waiting world. The silent galaxy. Then, finally, a single question in glowing letters. Who wishes to speak for you? The surviving species recoiled. This wasn't a demand for surrender. It was something worse. An invitation. The 𝗕𝗀𝘀 pulsed in frantic debate. The last 𝗕𝗲𝘀 warlords gripped their useless weapons. The 𝗕 shards hummed in dissonant harmony. None dared answer. Then, a child's voice. From a mining colony on the edge of known space. A species so small, so insignificant, the Council had never bothered to name them. We do, the voice said. The screens went black. The planet vanished. And somewhere in the dark between stars, something that had once been human whispered the last words the galaxy would ever hear from them. Finally. The experiment was over. The lesson had been learned. The silence lasted exactly 7 years, 7 months, 7 days. Then the stars began whispering. At first, the survivors thought it was radiation static. Then they noticed the pattern, mathematical perfection woven through cosmic background noise. The 𝗕𝗀 remnants, their energy forms dimmed to near extinction, were first to decipher the code. It wasn't a message. It was a key. The mining colony that had spoken, the insignificant species barely clinging to existence, found their homeworld changing. Gravity softened at dawn. Plants bore fruit out of season. Their sick awoke healed. On the 7th sunrise of these miracles, the first child was born with silver eyes. The galaxy watched in terrified awe as the transformation spread. Not conquest. Not transcendence. Something subtler. The 𝗕𝗲𝘀's shattered battle fleets began reassembling themselves, not into weapons, but into bridges spanning dead systems. The 𝗕𝗲 crystal shards sang in perfect harmony, mending fractures in spacetime. Even the ruins of the Galactic Council chamber bloomed with impossible gardens where thought became reality. The last transmission came not from a void, but from everywhere at once, a single pulse of light containing 3 revelations. 1. The weapon was never a weapon. 2. The humans hadn't ascended. 3. The experiment's true purpose. On 1,000 worlds, silver-eyed children looked up simultaneously and spoke the same words in their native tongues. You were never the subjects. The stars trembled. Reality itself held its breath. And in the perfect stillness between heartbeats, every surviving being in the galaxy suddenly remembered. The way old Earth's oceans smelled at dawn. The weight of a child's hand in theirs. The exact pitch of a loved one's laughter. Memories that weren't theirs. The final truth arrived without fanfare. The humans hadn't been testing alien civilizations. They'd been searching for worthy inheritors. The whispering stars fell silent. The gifts remained. And as the first silver-eyed child reached out to mend a broken moon with a thought, the universe exhaled. Somewhere beyond the veil, something that had once been human finally closed its eyes. Its work was done. The silver-eyed children stopped aging at 23. Their bones became unbreakable. Their blood shimmered like liquid starlight. When they spoke, flowers bloomed from their lips, petals carrying encoded data in their veins. The mining colony that birthed the first transformed into a crystalline city overnight, its spires growing like frozen music toward the sky. The 𝗕𝗀 remnants witnessed their energy forms stabilizing for the first time in generations. The 𝗕𝗲 shards spontaneously reformed into flawless geodes, each facet projecting images of futures that hadn't happened yet. Even the 𝗕𝗲's rusted warriors found their weapons dissolving into golden pollen that healed radiation burns on contact. Then the children began leaving. Not on ships. Not through gates. They simply stepped between moments, here, then there, then gone. Where they walked, reality softened. Broken planets knit themselves back together. Dead stars flickered back to life. The scars of the unmaking faded like bad dreams at dawn. The last transmission from Earth arrived as a whisper inside every living mind. We held the door open as long as we could. A 𝗕𝗲 child, one of the first to change, found the courage to ask the question burning in the galaxy's throat. Where did you go? The answer came from everywhere and nowhere. Where we always were. Where you'll be soon. Between the notes. Then the music returned. Not Clair de Lune this time. Something older. Something with a rhythm like a heartbeat and a melody like wind through trees. The stars themselves harmonized, their light bending into sheet music across the void. The silver-eyed children smiled for the first time. They finally understood the joke. The humans hadn't sent a weapon. They'd sent an invitation to the symphony. And as the last note faded, the galaxy realized 2 terrible, beautiful truths. 1. The curtain was rising. 2. They were all performers now. Somewhere beyond the veil, something that had once been human took its seat in the audience. And applauded.